I know you don't agree with me, but in a lot of ways, Gary, you really are a Laker legend. You know what I mean?
Mm.
How do you feel when people call you a Laker legend?
How do I feel? I mean, obviously, if anybody said that to you, it's a tremendous compliment. But at the same time, it's one that I really, I truly believe that I don't deserve. Now, having said that, I worked with a lot of legends, and I worked in a legendary era, the golden era of basketball. So that, but that doesn't make me a legend. It just puts me around a lot of legends, and it makes me almost feel uncomfortable because, you know, to be called a legend, that means you had to do something legendary. And I don't really think I did that. And I think I speak for all athletic trainers that I did what any athletic trainer in my position would have done to, you know, achieve the ultimate goal, which was to try to make, you know, a player better, more comfortable, um, you know, rehab. I mean, all the things that go under that sort of umbrella that whatever an athletic trainer is, because you know that umbrella is huge. It goes from sort of orthopedics to physical therapy to acute care to sports psychology to all of these things. And I just tried to be the best that I could. It doesn't mean that I was the best. I just did I did my job, you know, and that's what athletic trainers do. We're not trying to be legends. You know, Kobe wanted to be a legend, and he was a legend, and he is a legend, and he should have been a legend, but that was his goal. Okay? Athletic trainers don't have that sort of, I don't know, vibe, you know.
Yeah, but you know what though, Gary? Because you were there with the legends, and because those legends trusted you, because those legends believed in you, because you were a mother, a father, a sister, a brother, a counselor, and all of those to the legends, that makes you have to be a legend in order to be recognized and be respected by those legends.
Okay, I hear what you're saying. What I'm saying to you, that's not for me to say. Okay, if somebody else wants to call me that, then fine. But I'm not gonna, you know, I'm not gonna say I'm Gary Vitti. I was a legend. I mean, I'm just not gonna do that. I don't feel that way about it. I never felt that way about it. I just felt so fortunate, not just to work. I mean, you got to kind of understand where I'm coming from, where I just didn't work with these legends, but those legends that I work with taught me lessons of life that I might not have learned if I wasn't around them. And then I kind of made it my, especially after retirement, even during while I was working as I got older, and the age thing kind of reversed because now I was the old guy in the organization. So I started out a contemporary. I think the only two guys that were older than me on the team were Kareem and Bob McAdoo when I broke in. So I was a contemporary of most of the players. By the time I retired in 2016, I could have been for sure their fathers, and for some guys their grandfathers. And so my role, you know, sort of switched. And you know, the lessons that I learned from the great champions that I worked with that I really didn't have, I don't think, growing up or living a normal life. I mean, who lives with guys like Jerry West and Bill Sharman and, you know, Magic Johnson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar You hate to do too many names because then you lose some of them that were really significant. But to be around those kinds of guys that when you see them, because the true character of an individual comes around when things are bad, not when everything's great. Mm-hmm. And so in sports, I tell this to people that sports is not built for success. It's built for failure. Almost everyone in sports fails. And what I mean by that is there's only one team, or if you're in an individual sport, one person that can win the last game or the last contest. Everybody else goes home a loser. So you're really built for failure. You're not built for success. And so having been around individuals, in my tenure, in 32 years, we went to the finals 12 times, we won it 8. That's an unbelievable success story, but there was more failure than there was success if you really look at it objectively. Okay? And so what I learned from those guys, from their successes, and maybe even more from their failures, because I believe you learn more from defeat. You learn more from failure than you do from victory. A lot of times in victory, there's a lot of bad things that happen out there, but you sweep it under the carpet, because you won. Okay? When you lose, that's when you come in the locker room and you start talking about, well, how did I end up here? How did we lose? You might have won by a last second shot from half court. And so you come in and you're really happy you won, there's victory. But how did you get in that position? You basically won by luck. So it's these kind of lessons that I've learned from legends. I don't believe I'm a legend. I think I have legendary stories about legends. And those people taught me extraordinary things that especially when things in my life, because nobody's life is a straight line. I mean, everything, you have difficulties. And I've had some significant difficulties in my life. And when those things occurred, what I learned from how those people reacted in times of adversity, the resolve, the strength, the reaching down into your deepest part of you to stand up and be the best that you can at the worst time of your life. Not everybody has people like that around them to teach those lessons. And I had Jerry West and Pat Riley and Dr. Buss and Magic, obviously, Kareem, James Worthy, Byron Scott. I mean, significant human beings that had significant character and internal fortitude.
How did those gentlemen with their terrific character influence you to help you get your terrific character? Because there had to be a mutual trust there between trainer and player. And sometimes the player would tell the trainer things that he wouldn't even tell maybe his wife, but he would tell you because of the closeness of you two in the healing process of a physical injury.
Yeah, so another time where maybe you need to go talk to them to answer that question, but I'll give you my perspective. I work for really, really good people, really good people. Not everybody gets that, okay? I had great bosses with Dr. Buss and Jerry West and Mitch Kupchak and Bill Sharman, people that you could sit down and look at them straight in the eye and be honest and develop a trust. And especially with probably Pat Riley and Jerry West, when I came in, we had this sort of unwritten agreement that, listen, I'm your eyes and ears down there. In professional sports, usually management is on the second floor. Okay, the basketball floor is on the first floor, and then all the offices are on the second floor. The only office that's on the first floor where the basketball court is the head athletic trainer's office. And now there's assistant athletic trainers and strength coaches, but back in the day, there was just me. And so, I was the first one there and the last one to leave. And so I heard and saw everything. The coaches, GM, assistant GM, whatever, president would come down, owner would come down, watch practice for a couple of hours and go back to where they came from. I was there hours before they got there and hours before they left. So I was there before the players got there, when the players were there, the whole time the players were there, and then after the players left. So I saw and heard everything. And there was this, I sort of developed this thing with Jerry West initially and Pat Riley that, listen, I hear and see everything. So I'm going to come to you sometimes and tell you something, and you're going to ask me who, and I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to tell you that. I'm just telling you that we got something brewing, and, kind of let me just see what I can do with this. So I don't want to throw everybody under the bus, right away. And then there was other times that I would say, listen, I'm coming up and I'm telling you who, what, when, and where, because you need to know, because things are going to blow up. And there's other times that there's stuff brewing and I'm not going to tell you anything at all. I'm just going to keep an eye on it. And you just need to trust me, and I need to trust you that you need to know what you need to know when you need to know it. And hopefully, I can do that for you. And that worked very, very well for us. Now, the other end of that is the players. So now you're looking at a player and you're saying, hey, listen, man, I know what you're up to. Okay. Don't make me go up there. Okay. I'm telling you that if you just, chill, everything's going to be good. Okay. But if you push me, what am I going to do? I mean, it's for the good of the team. I'm going to have to go up there and say something. Okay. So my deal with you, and I would tell them, this is my deal with them, that I told them I would sometimes say nothing, tell them everything, sometimes tell them something, but not everything, so that they understood where I was coming from with management. And then I would tell them, now with you, here's what I'm going to promise you as a player. I'm never going to lie to you, but I'm never going to lie for you. So don't put me in a position that I got to go up there. Just be a pro. Be a professional. Do what you're supposed to do, and then everything will be fine. And so that's how I operated. Now, whether your question was, does that make me some sort of special person or whatever? I don't know. You got to ask those guys that I had those conversations with, and ask them. I wouldn't change anything from my end in terms of how I operated, because it really is a very slippery slope between players and management and coaches and that kind of thing. So.
Speaking of coaches, Pat comes in, Riley, and he brings in a new era of Laker basketball. He brings in Showtime. He brings in the stylish dressing, the way he combed his hair and everything. And that just kind of added to the whole atmosphere about what the Lakers meant, didn't it?
Yes, absolutely. It did, but in some ways, the image was not necessarily the reality. So the image was Riley coming in with the slick back hair and the Armani suits and the Italian shoes, and that we were LA glitz, and that the East Coast Conference teams were the hard hat guys with the lunch pails and all that, and that we were all glitz and with no substance, and they were all, a bunch of tough guys, hard workers and that sort of thing. Not going to take anything away from them, because that image really was true for them. The East Coast guys, they were tough. I mean, they were the lunch pail, hard hat guys. The image that we portrayed, which was the glitz thing, wasn't necessarily true. I understand that it appeared that way, but Riley was this tough Irish guy from New York. He may have looked slick and all that stuff, but he was hard as nails. I mean, Riley was a really intense guy. And he wasn't, he's as tough as anybody that I've ever known. So there was sort of this dichotomy on the West Coast that, we were the, we weren't the Lakers, we were the fakers, they called us and all that. It simply wasn't true. Granted, there were a few things that probably psychologically that we had to work through, but in terms of physical toughness, we had tough guys. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was a tough guy. I don't think people quite understand how great of an athlete that Kareem was, because I think most people saw him sort of at the end of his career. But if you looked at Kareem, first off, he played 4 years of college basketball. Okay, comes to Milwaukee, wins a championship with Oscar Robertson. No easy task in those days. Comes to the Lakers. This guy ran like a deer. Kareem may be, I make an argument in my book that Kareem may be the most accomplished athlete that's ever walked the face of the planet. If you look at his whole career in totality, he was unbelievable. Okay? But I don't think, he didn't ingratiate himself with the media, which from my perspective, there's something really beautiful about that. Not trying to be, the guy that everybody likes, but trying to be the guy that speaks the truth. That's the guy you could act, when you want to go to battle, okay, that's the guy you really want to be with, that you can trust him because he's going to do what he said he was going to do. And that was Cap.
Gary, how much fun was it sitting on the Laker bench, watching Showtime develop, but then watching all the stars in Hollywood, like the Denzel Washingtons and the Jack Nicholsons? These are some of the biggest stars in the history of motion pictures, and they would come to the Forum and be in awe of the Lakers.
Yeah. It's a great question, Jim. I know this sounds weird, not a lot of fun, because there wasn't any time for fun. Okay, in those days, the American sports credo was there's winning and there's misery, and there's nothing in between. And so Pat Riley had a saying, 12 plus 2 plus 1, 12 players, 2 coaches, and me. I was the one, okay? we were 15 people, 5 guys on the court, 10 people on the bench during the game. Everyone else was a peripheral opponent. So Denzel et al., Hollywood, all that stuff, all of that was a distraction from what we were trying to do. And Riley, to his credit, saw that and was like, don't get caught up in the hype. We have a job to do, and our only job is to win the basketball game. This is professional sports. This isn't college. This isn't high school. We're not trying to develop young men's characters and to be better human beings. All we're trying to do is win basketball games. That's what we're trying to do. And there's 15 people that are involved in that process during the course of a game. Granted, you have, Jerry West that built the team and all that. So there really wasn't any time to enjoy it while it was happening. And it's kind of a lesson that I learned, and I try to teach this to my children, that, I was brought up in professional sports that there's a goal, and the whole thing is about the goal. I later tried to teach my children, and this didn't happen until 91, when Magic, converted seropositive for HIV, that it's more about the journey than the goal. And so I never really took the time to enjoy the journey, because I was always about the goal. Okay? There's a lot of things that, while they were happening, as soon as they happened, if you asked me what just happened, I couldn't have told you, because I was already thinking about the next game, the next week, the next road trip, the next month, what's coming up, trying to figure out what just happened to my players in terms of what we call load now, load management. That term didn't exist, but like, what did they just go through, and how can I get them ready for the next thing? So I never had really a moment to stop and enjoy what just happened or what had happened, because I'm already looking forward to the next thing. And so it's not until you kind of get through it and then you look back and then you say, wow, did that really happen? Did we really do that? And that's why I counsel people that they should keep a journal. I didn't, okay? And I should have, because I have forgotten more than I remember. My wife Martha and my dog Duke, and we go for walks, and I see something, or a conversation, something comes up, and I tell her a story that happened 20 years ago. He said, why didn't you write that in the book? Because I didn't remember it until just now. Okay, so it all goes by you so fast, because you're in the moment all the time. You don't really take time to analyze the journey. And in the end, when it's all over, when you retire, whatever you do, the only thing that's left is the journey. You look back on the journey, and so, I hope I'm making sense to you, but that's kind of like what I live with today. It's been 5 years since I've retired, and I miss the camaraderie. I do. I miss games to some extent, not all games, because some games are absolutely miserable. You're stuck there. You, as a spectator watching the game, you could walk away. You could turn the TV off. I can't. I got to sit through it, suffer through the whole thing, okay? And then probably have to repeat it for the next day or two, because like I said, you learn more from your defeats than your victories. And so then you end up looking at that and what did we learn from that? Yeah, that's a lot. It's a lot to deal with on a daily basis. It's stressful. It takes a lot out of you because you have another contest coming up. So you're only as good as as they say, you're only as good as your last game, right? And so I don't miss that kind of stress and pressure all the time. I do miss certain people. I miss the camaraderie of the team, being a part of something, you know. It's complex. It's hard for me to explain it to you on an interview. We'd have to go away for a weekend and hang out and have dinners and lunches and talk about it, and then maybe I could make you understand what it was like to be me for 32 years, to work with some of the greatest champions in the world, what it was like to go to the finals 12 times and win at 8, what it was like to have 13 coaches but only win 8 rings with only 2 coaches. Okay, were the other coaches bad coaches? No, they weren't. They were great coaches. Right? But what was there about the 2, okay, that the other 11 didn't get it done, sometimes with more talent? It's complex. It's not easy. This whole thing is sports. I mean, it's, all right, I'm going to tell you this. This is the second time I'm saying this today because somebody else asked me a question. Sports is built not for victory. It's built for defeat. That's the way it's structured. It's not about winning. Sports is built about losing. At the end of the season, there's only one team, or if you're in an individual sport, there's only one person that can win their last game. Everyone else goes home a loser. And if you're in it to win, think of the numbers. Everybody goes home a loser. There's just a few people that go home as victors or winners. And if you build your life around that, I mean, just think about that. I mean, that's the chances of you. Well, think about baseball. You could fail 70% of the time, and you're a hero. Yep. What job, Jim? If you were horrible 70% of the time on the air, they would give you your papers, man. You'd be gone. Okay? So it's only in sports where failure, you actually get rewarded fairly well. These guys make a lot of money to not win.
But Gary, when I think about it, there's just a couple other things I want to talk to you about. And I want to talk to you about the closeness that you had and the trust you had with players in times of sheer crisis. And the first one is when we thought we were going to lose Magic to the virus.
All right, so you're trying to make me cry, huh? Okay. I've gone down this road many, many times since 1991. I'm not quite sure. So far, I'm doing really well here. I'm not quite sure why I react this way, because Irv's going to live longer than all of us. He's going to outlive us all. But at the time, what we knew about the virus, or maybe more importantly, what we didn't know, or what we thought we knew, we thought that he was going to, I mean, we thought it was a death sentence. I mean, we really thought that Magic Johnson was going to die. Okay? And so I guess some of what you're asking me about the trust issue, maybe where I kind of made my bones was that I knew for a couple of weeks that he was HIV positive. I was one of very few people. And I not only kept that a secret, I actually lied. I mean, think about it. If you have to lie to people, unless you're some sort of chronic liar, I mean, what that effect has on you. So, yeah, I'm lying to my family. I'm lying to my friends. I'm lying to the people on the team. I'm lying to the world about what's going on with him, but I really actually know what's going on with him. And then eventually it comes out, and then later he comes back, and then he has the whole, for people that don't know, I guess they can Google it. He has the fingernail scratch, and I refuse to glove for him, which probably would not have been that big of a deal if he didn't see the same things that I saw and decided to retire. And then once he retired, then that particular scene of me making, I guess, what you would call a political statement of, I'm not going to put gloves on, even though I know this guy's HIV positive. Okay. That really blew up. Okay. And there were people that were angry with me for not putting gloves on. But there was probably the vast majority, especially within the inner NBA, meaning the players and that kind of thing, that somehow, and I'm not trying to say I'm this person of high character, but I think somehow I was interpreted to be that person that would do the right thing. I think I did the right thing. Okay? And somehow I think part of my reputation is based on that one particular episode. Now, whether I deserve that respect or not, once again, that's not for me to say. All I'm saying is that I did what I thought was the right thing to do. Now, if you decide that, yeah, that was the right thing to do or wasn't the right thing to do, then, that's on you. I'm not looking to be, I wasn't looking to be a hero, right? And I'm not trying to act like a hero. All I was doing was, I didn't want to send a mixed message to the players on our team, because there was other players that were very vocal in the league that they didn't want to play with him. But what he didn't know, and what nobody really knew, was that there were players on our team that were coming to me and saying, "Are you sure this is okay?" And I'm saying, "Yeah, I'm sure it's okay." And so now, he gets his fingernail scratched. I put the gloves on. They're going to be looking at me like, "You just got done telling me it was okay. But why are you wearing gloves?" And I wasn't willing to do that. I don't think that makes me some kind of a legend or a hero. I just think any qualified athletic trainer that was in my position, any trainer in the other 29 teams in the league would have done the same thing. There's
one other person I'd like you to talk about his toughness, because I've heard you tell the story of the night that Kobe ruptured his Achilles and he wanted to stay on the floor and he thought that you could tape it up. You remember that?
Do I remember? Yeah, do I remember that? Of course I remember that. So, this story's been told a bunch of times, but let's tell it again. So, it's fairly obvious that he's done something. And if you have a trained eye, you can probably assume that he had ruptured his Achilles if you saw the play. There's been times where I've seen things and I've assumed something, and then I go out there and find out that it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. But this particular thing, it was like, I think I just saw what I saw, and then when he goes back and grabs it and that kind of thing, and so now you just got to go out there and confirm it, right? Which is what I did, and he, the telltale sign of Achilles tendon rupture is, I thought somebody kicked me in the back of my leg, and then I looked back and there was nobody there. If an athlete tells you that, you can pretty much go to the bank that he just ruptured his Achilles tendon. And that was the type of conversation that we had. Now, going to your question, now this isn't Kobe Bryant, this is the Mamba. So this is the experience that an athletic trainer, other than the one that's working with the Mamba, doesn't get. So any other athletic trainer with any other athlete goes out there and says, dude, I think somebody kicked me in the back of my leg. I look back there, there's nobody there. And then you say, that's kind of the telltale sign of an Achilles tendon rupture. Let's go back there and take a look at it. Unless you're working with the Mamba. So the Mamba, that's what I say to him about, the telltale sign. And then he says to me, yeah, I kind of thought that. And so I reach back there and try to pull it down. Like, I don't know if any athletic trainer has ever had a response like that from any other athlete. Like, that you ruptured your Achilles tendon and you're trying to pull it back down. Like how's that gonna, like, you're trying to weld it back to the other end of, and it's not like it's in two different parts. It really doesn't work that way. It's shredded and there's other tissue that kind of hold it together. And I said, well, it doesn't really work that way. Let's go back in the back and check it out. And then he says to me, well, maybe we can go back there and you can tape it so I can finish the game. I said, it don't work that way either, brother. Okay, here's the way it works. You got fouled. There's 2 free throws on the floor. They're gonna pick the worst free throw shooter on the floor. If you want to shoot the free throws, I will let you do that. You already ruptured your Achilles tendon. You can't rupture it anymore by shooting a free throw. So if you want to shoot it, I'll let you come back out there, shoot it. I'm going to talk to the coach of the Warriors. I'm going to talk to the officials. And I'm going to tell them that you're going to shoot the free throws. Make or miss on the second one, we're going to foul. Soon as you shoot it, we're going to foul. That'll create a dead ball, and then we can get you out of the game. He said, I'm shooting him. So he walked from where he ruptures Achilles tendon, which is right in front of Mark Jackson with the Warriors, all the way back to our bench on his own power. Then he walked all the way back to the other side of the court, shot the free throws. I told Mark what we were going to do. I told the officials what we were going to do. Everybody was on board. So all he had to do was shoot the free throws and stand there. He didn't have to move. And that's what happened. Later, to Mark Jackson's credit, he came to me and said, he apologized and said, I'm sorry. I should have called that timeout for you because I knew And I said, Mark, it wasn't on you, man. It was on us. But it was a great gesture I felt on his part. And I've always appreciated that from him. He walked off the floor of his own, after he made the 2 free throws, he walked off the floor of his own power. We went into the training room. He was stoic. And then as soon as he got there, he lost his mind. Okay? And that's when the emotion came out that his season was over. And maybe in his mind, possibly his career. Not too long after that, Vanessa and the kids were escorted to the back door of my training room. And there was a knock on the door. I went back there. And it was sort of a double door. So you could go into my office. You had to go through another door. You've been there. You had to go through another door to get into the training room. I closed that door, brought him into my office, and I said, okay, just hang for a second to let him know you're here, because he was very emotional. And so they stayed in my office, and I went in the training room, and I said, Kobe, I said, Vanessa and the girls are here. Like that, he turned off all of his emotion, because he didn't want his wife and his daughters to see him that way. And he put on this stoic face, and we let the girls in. And by the time that we had left the training room that night, we had already had his Achilles tendon repair schedule for 11 o'clock the next morning, which means he had already decided that tomorrow I'm going to start my comeback.
No, it's amazing, Gary. For someone to talk like that and to feel like that, they have to have a lot of trust in the person that they're talking to. And it's obvious that Kobe trusted you immensely, and that's the reason why you're a Laker legend.
That's not for me to say, man. I mean, I appreciate that. I hear that all the time. I just can't. That's not something for me. I don't know. I mean, that's for other people to say about you. I mean, you don't give yourself a nickname. You don't run around and call yourself a legend. I mean, I'm no legend. I just work with a lot of legends, and I learned a lot of legendary lessons from the lessons that I worked with. I was fortunate, lucky to work for a legendary organization and legendary people. I can only look in the mirror and ask myself, say to myself that, I hope that I was worthy of it. Because there's a lot of great athletic trainers out there. I mean, I wasn't the greatest. I wasn't the best. I think I was probably better than most, but not better than some that I know. There's great athletic trainers out there. And, I did the best that I tried to be the best that I could be. I had great mentorship. I had Pat Riley and Jerry West. I mean, I made mistakes. More than trying to do things right, I think that I never wanted to disappoint those two guys, especially those two guys. I just, it meant so much to me that, and I did disappoint them on occasion. There was things that I did that I was called in the office and I was told, you didn't handle that well. And I don't know. I mean, it's like going to your parents that you love and and they told you that you disappointed them. That's kind of the way that I grew up in professional sports, that more than winning, more than rings, more than anything, I just wanted Pat Riley and Jerry West to love and respect me.
Not only Pat Riley,
That might sound weird to everybody, but it's the truth.
not only Pat Riley, not only Jerry West, but all of us love, respect, and admire you. And through you, we've learned to keep the faith a whole heck of a lot. Thanks. I appreciate you taking the time, my brother. You know how much I love you.
I know how much I love you too, man. Thank you. Thank you for having me.